UKLC is presented by Barclays and Curry's PC World.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UKLC. We're just kicking it off, getting ready for game number 3 between Enclave and Bulldog. And just before the break came out, Iskandar had a quick look at the rosters and went, oh man, Enclave's pretty stacked. And I think it's pretty fair to say they are.
Yeah, Enclave have got a roster that I think is quite capable of competing even almost at an NLC level, realistically. I think quite clearly Enclave are going to be one of the strongest teams in our entire league. Only Angel, one of the longest serving top laners in the scene, incredibly gifted. Rafa, you've seen him in the jungle a lot. Rabstar and Shogun, I've seen Shogun at this level of competition for a very long time. Rabstar is a very well-known AD carrier. This has just got a lot of veterancy, a lot of skilled players. This is definitely one of the strongest rosters in the UKLC. Enclave, I think, will be contesting for that top spot, and they're going up against Bulldog. And look, Bulldog have got a lot of new players on the roster. They're currently 0-2. This is going to be a challenge for them. This particular game will certainly be a challenge for them. I think most people are expecting Enclave to come out on top.
Yeah, and for Enclave, it's very much about them wanting to get into the NLC. Obviously, they've been in the UKLC, they've been in the UK scene for a while. They've even represented the UK at the European Masters, and the UKLC is just a stepping stone for them. They want to make it into the NLC, and they want to put their best foot forward and try and get back to the EU Masters. Obviously, with the rise in talent and the rise of kind of the amount of quality we've got in the NLC, it's not as easy of a task as it was, but they've put a very capable roster together, and this is a roster that I can see potentially qualifying for the NLC. It's about them kind of, not showing too many weaknesses here. And for Bulldog, they are 0-2 so far. They need to get a win on the board this week. They don't want to be starting next week in a 0-4 hole. And for me, I'm just looking down the line, and I want to try and figure out who do we think is going to be the man that Bulldog need to play around.
I think they've got a lot of potential across the board, but Thomas, for instance, was the Yasuo that they played last week. They didn't actually pair it with the Gragas. There were some questions about what their drafts were like. There were definitely some questionable drafts coming out, but Thomas, I think, is a potential player to play around. There's a lot of potential on Bulldog. It's a lot of new players. They came in through the qualifiers, obviously, and I think they've got a lot of learning and a lot of growing to do. But I think, I'm going to look towards that mid. I'll have a look towards the AD carry as well, because Rabstar has been, like last split in the UKLC, Rabstar did not have the most stellar of splits. This split, he's looked pretty good, but obviously maybe there may be some potential there. But obviously you're going up against Enclave, and Enclave have got only Angel in the top, incredibly strong. Rafa is got a lot of veterancy in the jungle. Jacob used to be the mid laner for Atlando, which you might recognize from the Nordic Championships. They didn't have the best split, mind you, but apparently he's been insane this year in scrims for Enclave. And then obviously Rabstar and Shogun have got a lot of reps under their belt in terms of bot lane, Shogun being one of the most consistent supports that the UKLC has had in his current ranks. So regardless of who I think will carry from Bulldog, I think it's going to have to be a team-wide effort, realistically, versus a team of Enclave's caliber.
Well, we'll be finding out. We'll be locking and loading into the picks and bans shortly. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll be back with the Battle of the Jacobs. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a second. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UKLC. We're about to get into our third game of the day between Enclave and Bulldog. We're already locked and loaded and ready to go into picks and bans. The teams are already starting that up. So far, nothing's been banned. It's Enclave on the blue side and it's Bulldog on the red. Let's see what gets taken away here.
Yeah, and again, we're expecting pretty standard bans. Graves, which has been very prevalent in the UKLC. 2 games picked so far. This is the first thing that we're seeing it banned. Syndra, she's been banned across the board by most teams at a competitive level, either picked as well. Nothing out of the ordinary. And Volibear, something that we were talking about before the broadcast. This is 10.12. This is the Volibear buff patch. And not many top laners have opted into Volibear. And I'm guessing it's a comfort thing. Maybe they just haven't had the time and effort to put that Volibear to practice. But it is very strong on this current patch. Aphelios banned, no surprises there. Looking fairly standard for 10.12 in my opinion.
Yeah, pretty much so. But there's still been a lot left open. The Varus, the Thresh. We've seen Thresh twice today already. There's still so many things open, especially like the set as well. That's going to be the Callista. Almost that AD carry, but I keep forgetting is really good at the moment and always seems to slide under me. And then it does get banned away. So over to Bulldog. They're going to ban out the center here to round this out. And now over to the side of Enclave. A lot of top lane power picks left open. The Ornn has been left open. But it looks like maybe with that Varus being left open, they're going to grab that for themselves. So Rabstar going to get his hands on the Varus. Seen a little bit of lethality and the on-hit Varus recently. On this patch, they did lightly nerf the lethality build. So we'll have to see whether or not Rabstar wants to go for on-hit or he wants to just go for the poke Varus still.
Yeah, he has options. I think lethality Varus is still incredibly strong. They only slightly touched his Q damage. It's not the biggest nerf that he's ever going to receive. It's going to be set locked in, that flexible pick that can go top, it can go jungle, it can go support. And we'll have to see. Ezreal is still on the cards, by the way. Obviously, another strong AD carry. I imagine that gets picked up on first rotation for Bulldog. Otherwise, they're going to start really limiting the AD carries that they have available to them. Because if an AD carry doesn't get locked in, I'm certain that Ezreal goes in the bin on the next rotation here in terms of bans.
All right, well, with the Thresh left open, you can't give Varus Thresh over. So they are just going to deny that. Girish gets his hands onto that, and now we're looking towards last Sage here for the first pick phase for Enclave. With the fact that the Thresh has been picked up, some of this flexibility from the set has been taken away, so you can probably expect this to be top lane for Kira. Unless they want to flex it into the jungle or potentially mid, but realistically, you think it's going to go in the top. They get themselves the Trundle for Rafa.
Yeah, Trundle is a great jungler because it limits kind of the tanky jungler pool for Bulldog, because if they pick one, it's going to be quite easily countered. And also it means that you're raising a question: does Fortel have the ability to go more aggressive with something like a Nidalee? It's going to be an Ornn lock-in. Obviously, Ornn's still incredibly strong. Still a very, very good utility top laner. Has great early trading potential. He's not exactly a tank that deals 0 damage. The guy's a bit of a monster in that respect. And only Angel, we know, is very practiced on this particular champion, as most top laners worth their salt will be. And the Ezreal lock-in, as we said, I think it's the last remaining top-tier AD carry available. And it makes sense that Bulldog want to secure that before the next round of bans come their way.
Now, as we head into the ban phase, feels to me like we'll probably see some support bans come out here from the side of Bulldog, try and limit that pool for Shogun as much as possible. For Enclave, question is what do they want to pick up for themselves? What do they want to ban out? Most likely these junglers. That Nidalee, like you said, has still been left open. Sometimes we see the Kindred picked up into the Trundle as well, so that's a potential thing to consider for Enclave. But for the moment, actually looks like they're going to ban away Jacob's Azir. Been a comfortable blind pick for a little while now. They don't want to deal with that. So that's the Wukong banned away from the side of Enclave.
Yeah, Kera has got some interesting picks. I've seen him play Soraka, for instance. So he definitely has a rather large champion pool to work with on the top side of the map. It's going to be the Corki, really trying to put pressure onto Jacob's mid lane here for Enclave. But really, there hasn't been much targeting apart from the Syndra and the final 2 bans here for Bulldog. But it might speak volumes about a potential blind pick in the mid lane here for Bulldog if they want to go for that coming out of this rotation of bans. And I imagine this is about limiting what Kera could take in the top lane into the Ornn.
Alrighty, well, last ban will be the Nidalee. Don't want to deny that from, obviously, like you said earlier, does pretty good clear speeds and will be able to deal with the Trundle fairly effectively. if you can land that spear and catch him out at his camps. But I was talking about that Kindred, and maybe Fortel wants to flex that. We'll see what they want to go for here. There's still quite a lot open far as that jungle camp goes. We also had likes of the Jarvan show up a bit more recently as well. But Kindred is going to be the lock-in for Fortel. Pretty standard counter pick into the Trundle. And now Enclave, they're looking to round out their comp. They're looking for a support and a mid laner. What do they want to blind?
Disco Nunu, obviously. Quite clearly, Disco Nunu is the play. If you really want to level up your composition to high IQ levels, we need to go down the Disco Nunu. That's a bit of a throwback. Yeah, interesting to see the Kindred, actually. The Morgana is going to get locked in here, I assume, obviously going down to the support role for Enclave. Shogun, a pretty practiced Morgana player. It's something that he plays to a very high level. And now they just need a blind pick mid laner. Blind pick mid laner that works, things like Zoe, things like Orianna works pretty well. Both of those are perfectly fine, I think, in a blind scenario.
Yeah, I completely agree. With the Azir taken away is another kind of comfortable blind. Zoe or Orianna was a pretty good pickup here. So Jacob's going to get that. Obviously, it also adds to the amount of poke for Enclave have when you've got the Varus. If it is a lethality Varus for Rabstar, they do have a lot of kind of long-range poke that you have to play around, and that could be scary for Bulldog. We had a poke comp at the beginning of the day with the double mages, and these Baron pits, these Dragon pits can be dangerous areas to play around with these arrows and these paddle stars flying into you. The last kind of decent blind mid, even though it's not blind, comfortable mid, is going to be the Orianna, so Thomas is going to get his hands onto that. The team comps are rounded out. The Scoundrel, talk to me a little bit about what you think both of these teams are looking to do here.
Well, obviously, when you're running with a Varus and a Zoe, you have really, really good spikes off your first item. So you're just going to be looking to, I think, play around neutral objectives. You're going to be looking to catch people out on rotation to Barons and Rift Heralds, snowball the game. That way you have the engage to force the issue coming out from Only Angel. But obviously, as the game progresses, you're going to want to try and get a hold of the game. You're going to want to try and utilize the prio in mid, especially early on, to get the bot lane tower and then rotate top. So you're just looking to snowball plates, I think, and then utilize that to get some kind of win condition. Obviously, with Bulldog, you've got the scaling element. You have much better scaling, I think, coming in from Bulldog. The team fight potential is huge. They may come undone in the earlier stages of the game, especially if Kindred gets caught out. She's someone who's very susceptible to Zoe. You get sleepy bubble troubled. You're not at all tanky. You could very easily go down. So I think Bulldog just looking to keep tabs on Trundle and then sort of come online a little bit later on in the game around their team fights.
Seeing a lot of cleanses, both Jacob and Thomas running the cleanse on the side of Bulldog. Very scared of the bindings and the bubbles that can be flying out into them. Could just cause them to pretty much get insta-popped if one of those do land. And with the Meteor picked up for Rabstar, it is definitely going to be the lethality Varus. So we are looking at an extremely poke-heavy Enclave team here. And they have a pretty decent frontline as well.
Yeah, and also this is something like they've got really good individual target pick. Trundle functions so well with poke compositions because the pillar is such an incredible displacement tool, as well as the ridiculous slow that it provides. It allows you to either thread a Morgana binding or a sleepy bubble trouble onto a target. And remember, you're going to chain those CC at the end of the day. That CC is going to chain. So yeah, very, very scary single target pick potential from Enclave. And that becomes very scary around the earlier neutral objective plays. I think that's what's really going to be putting pressure on Barrage in this, Bulldog in this game, sorry.
Well, we're loading through onto the Summer's Rift for our third game of the day. Enclave taking on Bulldog. Enclave 2 wins back-to-back. If they can win here, they have to win out versus Munster tomorrow to go 4-0. To sit comfortably at the top of the tables. Obviously, they're not there alone. Demise also 2-0 currently in the league. And for Bulldog, they're looking for their first win of the league.
I think if you're going to pick a composition, they do have the tools. My only worry in this game, specifically, Jake, is that I don't see how they very easily compete in the early game for neutral objectives. I feel like they could get snowballed very easily. And that's my worry. If I'm Bulldog, it is Bulldog. Someone keeps saying Barrage. If I'm a Bulldog, I'm worried about my early game. That's the biggest hurdle that I'm going to have to overcome. Because when it comes to 5v5 team fights, especially when you start to get a bit tankier for Kera, it's going to be much easier to try and find an effective team fight. But it's all about those early Rift Heralds, the 8-minute Rift Heralds, the first Dragons. That's going to be the big issue for Bulldog. That's what they're going to have to contend with and keep under wraps.
All right, well, both the junglers starting up on their blue side. Looks like Rafa actually won't be doing a full clear. He's just going to get his wolves and then run towards his red. As we'll see if Fortel wants to go for a full clear for himself. Kira and Only Angel, he's having a bit of a scrap in the top lane. Kira at these early levels will just be able to punch around the Ornn, unfortunately, for Only Angel.
I mean, Set wins a lot of very early level 1 trades. Just kind of set things, unfortunately. It's difficult to play into that.
One of the things that me and Orcs have been talking about, and it is not even league related, is the amount of ordinary names we've got in this league. We got Jacob in this game. We've got another Jacob. We've got Thomas. Everybody just uses their regular names. There's no like XX Mystic Slayer. It's just I'm Bob.
I mean, I think Bob's cool.
Rabstar's actually getting hooked here. He's got the Ignite on, has to flash away, looking for the piercing arrow, and First Blood is picked up. Shogun tries to find the kill onto Jacob. The tower shot is enough, and it's a double kill onto Girish.
Do you know, I was talking to Orcs, and I was asking for a little bit of a brief overview of some of these players, and he was like, Enclave are really good, but Rabstar's kind of liable to int sometimes. I feel like that might be a pure illustration. And this is a terrible, like god-awful wave position for them as well, because they are just losing. Like it's not gonna bounce back to them easily. I think even Girish might be able to have just frozen it outside of their tower. And with all those summoners burns, oh dear.
Fortel, the bubble, the pillar, he has nowhere to go. Bye, Fortel. Jacob secures the kill.
We did talk about Kindred into Zoe and how very early on it can be a huge deal. Plus Trundle with Poke, and you saw that in action right there. Shogun with a beautiful binding. Nice arrow coming out from Rabstar. They're just trying to gain a bit of pressure back in this lane.
Now, the one saving grace for Enclave is the double kill was picked up by Girish, not by Jacob. So at least they've got that to play around. Girish now running around with the Moby boots. He is looking to play this map right now. Now, the mark spawning up on the Scuttle Crab, there's obviously a little bit of attention being thrown down onto that objective currently. It doesn't look like Fortel feels comfortable to step up with mid lane pushing, with bot lane pushing. There's no real prio for him on the Kindred. Kira just standing in the middle of the wave, gets himself a big haymaker off, goes into the face breaker as well, forces the flash. Kira flashes as well, and takes a tower shot. That was a little scrappy, a little messy in the top lane.
He cancelled an auto attack as well. He might have actually got the kill onto Only Angel had he not cancelled that. Again, Only Angel thinking he could take the fight. The massive debating shield that the set gets from those engages, and unfortunately Only Angel just a little bit miscalculated. But he burns flash for flash, which realistically he'll be pretty happy with, given that they both have teleport. He can just get back into lane pretty easily.
Looks like the base is coming through from Thomas. Jacob looking to just shove the wave in. He teleported back in. He's got double buffs on the Zoe, remember, from that earlier trade. They will be wearing off fairly soon, however. It's Rabstar. Lands another arrow onto Jacob. Jacob's had a pretty rough go of it on the Ezreal early. We'll be taking a lot of poke from the Morgana and this Varus. First Drake's the Mountain Drake. You see the pings coming down. With the Prayer, they've got bot and mid. Rafa feels pretty comfortable to do this. And even if he goes low, as long as he kills the dragon, he gets a massive amount of healing back. Although Fortel seems to be reading the play somewhat here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he kind of understands that this is something that Trundle is very capable of. But when you've got Prio bot and Prio mid, not much you can do about it, realistically. Fortel just trying to consolidate with level advantage. He's got a 10 CS lead at this point in time. So he is outpacing Rafa in terms of levels, and that's probably the best thing that he can do in this scenario. Jacob's just taking an absolute beating from Rabstar. Despite that little early mishap from Rabstar, he's still maintaining a good CS lead over his counterpart. They're still firmly in control of this lane.
Fortel's been spotted out by Only Angel, so they have good information of where he is. We'll go over that pink ward as well, so even so. So the pings are going down there. They are looking to collapse onto Fortel. The pillar's been thrown out. The Call of the Forge gone as well. They do have that blast cone. And the knock-up's going to land. The bubble just about popped. Jacob flashes the wall, secures the kill with the more sparkles. As Rabstar in the bot lane getting punished. And he will fall down. Shogun this time won't be able to find a return kill.
He did it again.
What is Rabstar doing?
Oh, look, I'm going to stand by my previous statement that Rabstar's a little bit liable to inting. That was just, again, over-aggression, getting caught out by a hook from Girish. The second time it's happened in the lane, that should not be happening. Losing 2v2 is not something that you want to happen. It's generally a good indicator of a lane going poorly. And that you know, at this level of play, usually in the 2v2 scenario, you're expecting outside influence to be the determining factor about who gets control of the laning phase. But right now, let's just call it an early back. Rabstar just wanted that early back to be able to make it up top for the top lane 8-minute Rift Herald rotation. We're going to call him a 5-head, 3,000 IQ back play there.
Yeah, okay, I'll go on board with that. Maybe a little cocky. Maybe a little bit. We'll be able to pick up... Oh, he missed his cannon there. As he went to go check into the... in the bush, just in case anyone's there. The rotation's coming from Bulldog as well, though. As Rafa, he's going for a quick reset. Should be on the map quick enough, although Fortel's already gone for his reset. And he's already in the red side jungle. So, a little bit of an advantage picked up by Bulldog already. But remember that mid prio is still pretty big for Enclave.
Sheen is here for Jacob as well, by the way. He didn't go tier. So he's gone for Sheen, which is going to allow him to have much more skirmishing potential around this Rift Herald. He's going to be a much more of a threat than he would have been with just a single tier in his inventory. Obviously, the Orianna has gone tier, so she won't be as much of a threat. But, I mean, Jacob's definitely going to be much more punishing and much more difficult to deal with than if he had just gone down the tier route. Plus, we are level 6 for Fortel. So he has got the ultimate available with the double buffs there as well. And I'm guessing this is why Enclave are actually delaying this Rift Herald, because they want Rafa to be level 6 as well. Not that his ultimate is as impactful, but it's still a good way to sustain up in these fights. I don't think you can face Kindred when she's level 6 at this point in time.
Well, looks like Fortel maybe thinking about starting up, but decides to dance of arrows over the wall. Doesn't want to get caught out. Rabstar now got the Chains of Corruption on him. As Jacob continues to take poke from Rabstar. And now the attention towards this Herald is getting started up by Enclave. They're the ones to move over. A lot of visions being placed down, though, in and around the area, although Rafa is currently sitting in a safe haven. And Jacob shoving in this mid lane. He's going to be able to move over early. Fortel will spot out Rafa here.
Just going to be able to clear out some vision at that Rift Herald. Only Angel actually getting very heavily punished by Kerry. He's going to pop the Call of the Forge.
Oh, he failed it!
He failed it!
Slammed down! They do trade out 1-for-1. Only Angel. What a fumble. We were bigging him up so much coming into this game. And that was just a very uncharacteristic mistake by him.
I don't know. I didn't catch it. He didn't use the face breaker to prevent him from knocking it forward, did he?
No. So what happened was only Angel bellows breath so he could get the extra auto attack for burst damage. But the ram got to him quicker. So he tried to go for a greedy additional auto, effectively.
He was locked in the animation, I guess. That's the reason he couldn't knock it back. I'm trying to work out if it was a genuine misplay, or he was either locked in the Bellows Breath animation, or he got face breakered out of knocking it forward. I can't quite work it out. I don't want to make any assumptions because I wasn't looking at it closely enough and I need to see a replay.
I love all the guesswork by two play-by-play casters.
Yeah, but like I don't want to call a player bad when I might have just missed what happened there. Like,
we don't call it bad. We say it's a fumble.
It's a fumble, right? I don't want to, but I don't want to mischaracterize the play if that wasn't quite what happened. That's all I'm saying. You know, and I'm very, very conscious that I don't want to paint Only Angel as like making a mechanical misplay when actually that might not have strictly been the case.
We'll have to see. Right, anyway, with that, things are coming down. Everybody's rotating towards this bot lane. Now the Umbral Glaive finished up onto Rabstar. He's got a lot of damage. Jacob's looking for a bubble, but it will hit a minion. Rafa comes in with a pillar. And Shogun will land that bubble from downtown. Thomas instantly on the cleanse. Still has his flash. So they look for the play. They force out a subjugate for cleanse.
I mean, right there is a classic example of why Trundle is good with poke and good with single target CC. Like, there was nowhere for Thomas to go in that particular instance. Nowhere.
Dragon's getting started up. It looks like Enclave, they're more interested in actually just pushing out this mid lane. As that does fall, but the pillar's available to Rafa. Maybe wants to find a little something. The bubble doesn't quite land onto anybody. And we're looking at an Infernal Soul. Not many team comps really like the Infernal Soul as much as a poke team comp.
I've realized I actually got a tweet that I think from Megalodontus, who said, obviously because we are... oh, wait a second. I'll talk about it in a minute. Rabstar maybe getting caught out.
Yeah, Rabstar's got that black shield on him. The lantern to get closer and closer. The arrows are coming down. The hook lands by Girish, but he can't actually follow. In comes the teleports from everybody. Shogun will find himself the kill onto Jacob. Now only Angel coming forward. This time he lands the ram. In goes the ultimate from Fortel. And that actually means Enclave can just continue the tower dive to go forward. And it looks like they will just take first tower blood. They've still got the Rift Herald from Rafa to place down here. They've got the members to work with. And that will be the tower.
Kera didn't even bother teleporting because he just knew that was so over by the time that it even started. It will be first tower blood, which will give a nice chunk of gold over to Enclave. And yes, it's been a bit shaky on the bottom side of the map, but things are looking a bit cleaner when the team is coordinated around map macro plays. And, you know, all credit to them. I need to explain something because I've realized that obviously we're now split across a couple of platforms, with us being on the BBC as well right now. When we talk about inting and Disco Nunu, I know I'm quite well aware that not many people will understand what we're talking about. To just be clear, some terminology, we're not going to be able to make this a beginner-friendly stream. Inting means when you're dying a lot, like intentionally or unintentionally. Most of the time in this level is unintentionally. It's just when you're giving up a lot of free kills. That's what we call inting. So if you ever hear us refer to that, that's what we mean, and it's usually not a good thing. In fact, it's never a good thing.
And in competitive, you don't actually see people in the sense that it's intentional. It's just the terminology we use as more in a humorous fashion. We're not actually saying only Angel inted that play bot lane or Rabstar is intentionally getting hooked in the lane. That was not their intention.
No. It's just a colloquial phrase to mean you're dying a lot. or making some kind of misplay. So that's inting in a nutshell, everybody. There you go.
League 101. Fair, most people, when they use the term inting, they're not actually talking about someone who's actually inting. They're just talking about someone playing bad.
Yes,
in solo queue. 9 out of 10 times when someone is quote unquote inting, they're probably not inting. They're probably just having a bad game.
Yeah, absolutely.
What other league terms would our BBC viewers maybe not understand for those who are not new to League of Legends? We'll have to talk about that in a second because Jacob has been caught out. The Bellows Breath does do a fair amount of damage, but he is able to Arcane Shift away.
It's an interesting question. Let's talk about them when we come across them in a cast. I think if we come across something that we feel needs explaining a little bit further, I will, sir. I'm not going to go back and explain Disco Nunu.
Call of the Forge Gods coming in, and he is out of there. The Lantern for Jacob saves his life.
But is it enough to allow them to get the top tier 1? That's going to be the big question here. I think they're going to have enough damage with the plates having gone down. I think this is going to be enough now for Enclave to pick up their second turret of the game. The gold lead is not exactly huge, but Enclave definitely feeling command of these plays right now. In the early game, these skirmishes around these objectives, those will be important. Actually, something that I think that went really well for Bulldog this game is that they got the second dragon. Now, getting the second dragon is going to delay the Dragon Soul, and it is Infernal, which is obviously ridiculous with Zoe. Like, Infernal Zoe, absolutely ludicrous, Jake.
And Pope Varus as well.
Exactly. It's one of the worst Dragon Souls to get if you're Bulldog and you're going to give it over to Enclave. So by delaying it, they're giving themselves more time to scale up and hit those item spikes where they can potentially contest them in a 5v5 team fight. That second dragon take actually fairly important for this Bulldog roster.
Oh, that's a long old bubble from Jacob. There's no way he's going to get close enough to do anything about it, but that was very, very close.
Still pretty good. I mean, Enclave still feeling control, but the gold lead wouldn't really make you feel that way. it's really, what, 300 gold between these two teams right now? And I think a lot of that comes down to jungle farm and top farm difference. There is quite a significant gap between Only Angel and Kera in the top lane. And obviously, Fortel is keeping that level advantage built up as well. So that's kind of closing the gap for Bulldog, because the other side, the bottom side of the map is quite clearly in favor of Enclave all over the shop. But it's going to be another attempted dragon take here. Nicely trouble bubble, but they will not be able to convert on it. Jacob's just doing great damage. This is the problem with face checking into a Zoe around neutral objectives when they have good vision control. It's just nigh on impossible.
Oh my lord, Jacob gets absolutely minced. If Rabstar can find an arrow, throws out the chains, that forces the ultimate out from Fortel. As in comes the bubble, Fortel chunked.
Well, that's Zoe.
That is Zoe.
I think one of the strengths of Zoe, and something that we don't often talk about, is the ability in these stages of the game, especially when you have good vision control, to be able to punish the enemy that are trying to contest certain objectives. If I were Bulldog now, I'd give up this dragon. There is no way I contest it, because we haven't got vision control, we can't face check, and that's one of the things that Zoe offers, especially off the back of a Luden's Echo Spike, which is going to provide her that extra amount of burst that's going to make it very difficult to deal with her. So this ability to face check into a Zoe is not something that Bulldog have got. If you have a super tank, like a Maokai or Scion or whatever, that becomes easier because they can eat the bubbles, they can eat the damage, and it's not going to be as big of a deal for them. But there is no one on Bulldog that has that ability to do so right now. And so when it comes to trying to contest neutral objectives, they cannot do it from a blind scenario.
Alrighty, well, the resets are going in for everybody. Let's take stock of where we are item-wise here, because you hit on the Luden's Echo for Jacob. He's now picked himself up the Oblivion Orb as well, so has a lot of extra damage with the extra magic penetration he has. You've got the Edge of Night and the Umbral Glaive onto Rabstar. We take stock of where we are on the other side. The Ceres for Thomas is getting picked up as Display the Ruined King's going to do a lot of damage to Only Angel. He does get himself the knock up, and in comes the Redemption. He's going to try and keep himself alive as long as possible. The Call of the Forge shot's coming out by Only Angel. Kira gets interrupted into the Haymaker, and now they're just looking to turn it back around onto Kira. Facebreaker won't land. True Shot Barrage is coming in from downtown, and Fortel now dancing of arrows forwards towards Rafa. Gets a lot of bonus damage off, but the binding is flashed away. Shogun comes in with the ultimate, the pillar to keep Fortel in place, and Only Angel charges in. That's 2 kills for Enclave. And a massive fumble by Bulldog.
That was beautifully played from Only Angel, though. Just tiptoeing on the edge of the engage distance from Kera and just able to buy enough time for Rafa to come down, steal those resistances, and make it much easier to kill. I have no idea what Fortel thought he was going to achieve with absolutely no support, even in a 1v2. But nonetheless, it might now be the second Rift Herald of the game secured for Enclave. As you can see, Rafa making his way over to that side of the map. Shogun and Rabstar in a good spot. That Edge of Night has been completed, so he's able to block out, that single ability at the start of a fight. Zoe still very strong on the top side of the map with a level, not a level advantage rather, but she's still looking very strong, nearly at her second item. Second Rift Herald looks like it's been started up. Rafa has made his way over. It feels like Enclave, despite the gold lead not really signifying it, are still very much in control of this game.
Absolutely. Now, Jacob just clearing up this top wave while the last Herald gets picked up. Good timing, actually, as it will be wearing off fairly soon. Knight's Vow on the base for Rafa, so he's looking to invest and make sure Rabstar has a little bit extra supporting him. There's 20 minutes on the clock. The gold is pretty close, but you can see the big swing there across the board. Very back and forth, actually. More than I thought.
Yeah, it's been a bit up and down this game, but I think a lot of that came due to the jungle CS advantage, but or not even that CS advantage has been eroded, by the way. But the top lane CS advantage is obviously quite significant. Kera has got the advantage versus Only Angel right now in that matchup, but the rest of the map is very much going in favor of Enclave, and they are now starting to siege onto that mid lane tier 1. They're just going to drop the Rift Herald. This should be enough to allow them to secure this mid lane tier 1, and that's really going to be where the game starts to open up for them.
Bubble hits onto the minion. As they're going to actually get another charge out here. They've got the ability just to cut through these waves pretty quickly with the Zoe and the Varus. As Jacob continues to throw these bubbles out. Actually, the pillar was so well placed bopping Fortel into the bubble. Girish tries to go in for the flankers. Now Kira actually does get himself the showstopper off onto the Zoe. The Call of the Forge God for Jacob. Jacob tries to jump away with the portal jump, but he just pings straight back into the waiting jaws of the set. And now Jacob has to be careful for Rabstar as a great hook comes out by Girish. The charge comes in. A shockwave onto 3 members by Thomas, though, as he's looking to find himself another one. Gets himself the double kill. Jacob now kiting and fighting away. The lantern by Girish is just gorgeous as Thomas gets himself a triple kill.
Is that going to be enough to go straight over to Baron for Bulldog? That was a huge teamfight play. The greed coming out for Enclave for that second tier 2 in the mid lane. And again, the one performing member of Bulldog, Kera, comes in and annihilates Jacob in that team fight. The gold lead that he gained in the top side of the map has not been for nothing. He absolutely crushes one of the major DPS sources with Jacob going down, and then it was just a simple cleanup for Thomas. Beautiful shockwave with a triple kill to really unlock this Orianna. That might be what Bulldog needed to keep themselves alive in these teamfight situations.
Absolutely. Thomas with just an incredible shockwave onto multiple members. Now, Infernal Drake is spawning up. If Bulldog can get it, they deny this from being sole point from the side of Enclave. 2 apiece as the bubble lands actually onto Girish. This could be a bit of a death sentence for the one who throws them out. Gets caught out by the binding. Great hook, actually, to interrupt Jacob there as Kira comes in with the showstopper onto the flank. This time it's Rabstar who's in his sights. The Haymaker is just disgusting. Shockwave comes out by Thomas. He does find himself bound and bubbled, but Girish looks to keep him alive. Jacob tries to jump back in forward one more time. Jacob chunks so low. The zone control from the Zoe is just so big as a bubble will get thrown down once again. Not quite enough, and only Angel has to be a little careful here. Rafa very low. As Jacob looks to continue to sink in these paddle stars. Jacob looks to try and poke over the wall here on the Zoe. Call of the Forge God gets thrown out, and they do catch out onto Thomas momentarily, but Jacob kills Jacob. The Alpha Jacob is here as the binding comes down by Shogun. He does have a black shield on, but it's not going to keep him alive for long. Zhonya's will be used, and Shogun is hooked to death as Jacob secures another one. This will be Dragon for Bulldog.
Oh my word, Kera, what an absolute monster this guy is. They are going to deny another dragon and now put themselves at equal footing for a potential dragon soul. That was a shambles for Enclave. Absolutely ludicrous that Rabstar gets taken down so early in the fight. Kera has been an absolute god. He's going for the Death Dance next as well, which will make him even more tanky in these teamfight situations. Enclave are rapidly losing their window in this game, and I would even say that they may have had it already shut as a Bulldog are starting to come online. Jacob and Thomas, and we talked about Thomas in the mid lane being someone to watch out for. I know Kera's scoreline might not reflect it, but he has been so impactful in these fights, but Thomas has really followed up where it counted in these 5v5 scenarios. If Enclave were to lose here, it would be a huge upset given the caliber of this roster.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, what do Enclave need to do then? What is their game plan now? They're tied on Drakes. They're not that far behind in gold. It's only 1,000 between them. What is the game plan if you're Enclave? Because these fights are starting to get a little bit too hairy for you.
Look, your strength still lies in Zoe's ability to one-shot a lot of the carries on the side of Bulldog. You want to utilize vision advantage around those neutral objectives. And try and make single target picks. You've got the pillar, you've got the arrow, you've got the binding, you've got the sleepy trouble bubble. A lot of these single target damage sort of options are still available and will still last for a very long time into this game. If you could blow up someone like Fortel, Thomas, or Jacob before a fight even begins, you've practically won it. So that's what I'm looking for Enclave, but it does rely on superior vision control. It does rely on Bulldog having to face check. And honestly, right now, Kera is tanky enough to take Zoe Bubbles to the face, and it won't really bother him.
Yeah, and he's getting himself a Death Dance as well as Jacob. So these two could be really hard to kill. Only Angel, though, will be starting to hand out those ornaments in one level. He's upgraded the Forge Fire Cape and the Infernal Mask for himself. So starting to give himself some extra bonus stats for free.
It's nice to have on because he does help alleviate maybe some of the ways that your team falls off just by having those options available to him. I am still worried for Enclave, though, to be honest with you, Hitbrain. I genuinely do believe that Bulldog are starting to get a grasp on this game. It's Seraph's Leandri's completed. Death's Dance on Ezreal is almost there. He's gone for the Iceborne Gauntlet version of the build, where he's looking just to control areas of a team fight, which is going to be much better for Thomas. It's going to be much better for Fortel as well. You don't need the extra damage from Triforce because you've got, I mean, he's not going to die. He's going to take a lot of damage, but he won't die. He's also just trying to facilitate Fortel. I mean, when you've got this much damage on your team, you don't actually need to go for Triforce because there is so many options for you in terms of damage sources.
Well, Orcs was actually talking to me a lot about this build, and part of the strength of it when you go Iceborne and Death Dance is obviously Death Dance comes with armor. You then get the Iceborne armor on top of that. You got a lot of bonus armor, and he's really hard to kill at that point. I mean, you're looking at Rabstar, who's gone, the poke Varus. So all this armor actually really helps into the lethality from Rabstar. Obviously, there is still the potential for Jacob to kill him because there's only a little bit additional magic resist coming from the Aegis and from his Death's Dance. But even so, this does make him very tanky.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you've raised a good point. Like versus lethality Varus, it's actually a really solid defensive itemization pathway. Kind of fills that defensive itemization void as well. And he's got the Death Dance completed as now finished as well, coming up to this next potential dragon fight, which will be in 1 minute's time. I genuinely think Bulldog are in a great spot. I think that the damage potential from Enclave is going to very quickly start to go out the window, and it's all about that single target pick potential. As long as Bulldog don't make any silly mistakes, they're in a good spot. Now, what I would say about what Enclave have done here is they are looking to set up vision control around the blue side jungle, around the entrances to the river, around that dragon. They are looking for a single target pick to make sure they can secure this. But 2 dragons taken, they could have had Soul already if they were able to control the dragons. And being Infernal Soul, this is so important to them, Hitbrain, like really, really important to them.
And while it's important to Enclave, it's also very nice for the likes of an Ezreal, who typically struggles with wave clear. Getting that AoE on your Q to hit the minions is really, really nice for you. Obviously, Orianna already comes packed with a buttload of damage. You get the Infernal Soul on top of that, and suddenly Thomas's ball is going to start to really chunk members. Kira just being a nuisance in the top lane, pushing up here. There is a bit of zone control coming out from Jacob. Does do a little bit of damage to Thomas, but it's not overly massive yet, as the bubble does land onto the Ezreal. Jacob not going to be able to follow up, though, and find anything. It's the True Shot Barrage. Will get thrown down for a bit of scouting. Rafa throws down the bubble and the pillar. In comes the Call of the Forge God. Only Angel is going to land it. They do have a good ultimate coming out from Fortel to keep members alive. Shockwave lands onto Rabstar on that flank as the fight is broken up onto all fronts here. Bulldog, though, health bars are low, but they find themselves the kill onto Shogun. Jacob, still full health, still able to survive so long here, as he has to use the cleanse to survive from the bubble. Shifts into the face of Enclave, and now he might be in for a little bit of hurt here. The shield, the hook, Girish lands it, gets himself the damage, gets himself the flay. Jacob's still alive in the middle of the fight, trying to find a little bit of something, but Rabstar will find the snipe. The health bars are so low on both teams, but Bulldog are the team who feel comfortable to go for this dragon.
They've still got Kera at full HP. Jacob's zoning potential will be too much for Enclave to deal with. What a back and forth fight there, but really, Bulldog, I feel... Oh, he gets it! He picks him up with the stray True Shot Barrage. Rabstar has not had the game of his career this time round, and Enclave genuinely may be staring down their first loss in the UKLC. This is a team that we really did not expect to be able to step up and beat them. I've got to give credit where credit is due. Thomas, Jacob, Kera especially have been excellent in this matchup, and I think potentially, I go out and say I think they're favorites to win from this position.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption to make, to be honest. Now, I do actually want to give a big shout out to Girish in that last fight. He shut Jacob down with just a stellar hook onto Jacob. He was trying to find a kill onto Jacob. Very confusing when Jacob's trying to kill Jacob and Girish stops Jacob from killing Jacob. I'll let you figure that one out.
It's one of the problems when both of the both players on either team are called Jacob.
Who saw this?
One should be Jacob E and one should be Jacob B.
Now, Thomas able to dodge away on the bubble. That's going to be the true shot. The hook is blocked out Banshee's Veil there. He also had the black shield from Shogun to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Banshee's Veil coming out on Jacob's a bit awkward, isn't it? Because it's really limiting his damage output. He's gone for a more defensive Zoe item, but that overall is going to limit what kind of damage Zoe can do in an individual pickoff potential. It's a good route.
Actually, Fortel does have the ultimate if he needs it. He's going to pop himself the Lamb's Respite. The bubble lands, but he gets the Lantern out. It's hard to kill these Bulldog members, even with all this poke, just due to that Lamb's Respite. Thomas may look for something here over the wall.
Just it's too easy for Bulldog to. I mean, like I said, the Zoe damage is a little bit lackluster because of a build path. Like, I get why she's gone it. I get why the Banshee's Veil is good in this scenario. Kind of, I guess, if you can't dodge hooks, I suppose. But it feels like it's really limiting the damage output of this particular pick, and I feel like she's the majority of your burst.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
The key thing as well is we were talking about how powerful these ornaments will be for the members of Enclave. It's actually the upgrade on the Luden's Echo for Jacob, not the Death Cap, because they just wanted to get the raw stats as quick as possible. Obviously, Death Cap is the most efficient one that gives you the most AP, but they couldn't wait for him to finish up a Death Cap. They wanted to make sure they got damage right now, and that does mean that he's gone for the less efficient item from the upgrade. Obviously, it does give him a little bit more mana to play with, so there are swings and roundabouts to that statement.
It's like I said, I think at this point in time, it would require an individual mistake from Bulldog. They'd need to get someone picked off. It's all going to be about vision control and play around that vision control for Enclave, but they can't even contest in the split push right now. Kera is too difficult to deal with for Only Angel. Despite the upgrades and items that Only Angel has got, Kera's just constantly out-pressuring him in a side lane. He's level 18 to level 15 right now. There are multiple ways that Bulldog are trying to exploit this game and sort of try and find advantages. They're playing it slow, but I don't blame them for playing it slow. It's up to Enclave to make the proactive move, because the longer that you wait for Bulldog, the better it is going to be for you. So they're happy to not take any risks here. And this is why you can see Enclave just clearing out vision around the Baron, just saying this is going to be our opportunity to get vision control, wait for a face check, look to lay a single target CC, but Bulldog are not willing to take that risk.
Now Jacob does just about dodge away on that paddle star. It was a little close, but didn't quite land. And Enclave, they have control of the area around the Baron Pit at the moment. And another key thing to note is this tier 1 still fairly healthy for them for the moment, which does mean that they actually do have a nice little safe haven to turtle underneath that's fairly deep into the map. And it gives them this opportunity to move into the pit and clear it out from a safe position. So it's just the power of keeping this mid lane open. However, the Infernal Soul is spawning up. Enclave invested a lot of vision into the Baron area, and now they need to start to shift it over towards that Infernal, because they do not want to lose Infernal Soul now.
It's Infernal Soul, if this gets picked up by Bulldog, I'm almost certain that this is going to be game over for Enclave. Like, Infernal Soul is so important for the Enclave roster. We actually saw it in the NLC last week, where Infernal Soul changed the game for a team that wasn't supposed to scale particularly well. I'm trying to remember which particular matchup it was. I think it was Dusty versus Tricked, where Tricked managed to pick up the Infernal Soul, and it actually allowed them to beat out a team who was supposed to scale better because of how powerful that poke is. Now, this is a good start. You're already putting pressure.
Get the chains, and Rabstar now has to run away. Girish looks for the hook, doesn't quite find it, but in goes Kira onto Rafa. The Call of the Forge God and the Lamb's Respite have been used. That's going to be the Haymaker thrown down. Fortail's very low HP. He has to keep rolling away from the side of Enclave. Jacob has that flash if he wants to use it. Throws out the bubble, but the cannon minion will block it. Girish pretty low HP, and Girish almost goes down, has to pop the stone plate. Kira does miss out, and Shogun lands a bubble onto one. In comes the bubble from downtown from Jacob. It does land onto the other Jacob. It's too far away. The distance is too much. Enclave, with this tower, were able to get enough control around the area to get the dragon, and now next Drake is sold for either team.
Yeah, that's a really big pickup for Enclave, because they're keeping their hopes alive of securing one of the more important objectives in this game for their team. Rabstar gets taken low, bailed out here by Rafa, but this is still very tense.
True Shot Barrage is going to get thrown down into a massive showstopper by Kira. Fortel has already got himself a kill onto Shogun. They're looking to try and find a little bit of something onto Jacob. Jacob does land the bubble on to the back line. Kira's going to get chunked, and Fortel, that arrow did so much damage to him. Bubble will not go all the way down the wall. Just angled a little bit whiffy there. And Enclave somehow keep themselves alive in this. It's so dicey for them this game.
That chunk, I think, onto Fortel has delayed the Baron, most importantly for Bulldog, and that is a big pickup. But honestly, like the work that Kera is doing right now is ludicrous. Like, this is why Set gets banned. This champion is bloody broken. Like he is doing so much work as an individual in these team fights and just allowing his team to follow up so easily. He's basically solo zoning carries away from the Enclave roster. Like, you have to keep your eyes on Kera in these fights. He seems to be the sort of the X factor for this team when it comes to these team fight situations.
Enclave now back onto the map. That looks like they're going to try and get their hands onto some vision around this Baron pit. Neither team really has too much dominance in the area. There is a pink ward in the river from the side of Bulldog, and that one lone just regular ward just below the Raptor camp. There is a few shy wards being placed down from the side of Bulldog now as they want to try and inch their way up. But honestly, this tower is doing so much work for Enclave.
Oh, dude, that mid lane tier 1, you can see why it's one of the most important towers in the game. Like, they are just constantly able to maintain control. That's big on Jacob, though.
Thomas maybe just saved the day there for Jacob. True Shot Barrage goes down as the chains look to spread. Fortel dodges away on the bubble. Bulldog, so clutch. A massive shockwave by Thomas just saved his AD carry's life.
Yeah, and in the meantime, look at Kera, just like, yeah, dude, fine. Team fight it out. I'm going to take yet another turret on the other side of the map. Dude, this game is so close, but like I said, this favors Bulldog, I feel, as the game progresses. Oh, my word. This is tense. This is really tense. They again, Zoe forcing out the ultimate from Fortel. Individual picks will define this game for Enclave. And if they can continue to make plays like this, they might be able to get enough pressure to get that Dragon Soul and maybe even the Baron. The Dragon Soul, the Dragon Fight, this next one is going to be the most important.
Look how much healing Jacob has, though, with the Blade of the Ruin King and the Death's Dance. One wave, he's back to full health from all that poke. Now, Fortel, Lamb's Respite's not quite available to him yet, as Jacob actually is going to get jumped onto by Jacob. We'll just get himself a little bit of poke off for the moment. Rabstar will hold the wave for the moment.
Say a bit of Jacob on Jacob action. Seen quite a lot of that this game.
The two Jacobs are really defining players in this game.
Yeah, I like that the Rabadons has been finished up by Jacob now, because that's really important to this Zoe. It's going to, obviously, you're seeing it's massively improving the damage potential and the individual pick. I love the way that Bulldog are playing around the picks. I mean, they're not walking into it. They're playing it so safe. But for me, it's all about Kera. He's pressuring side lanes. He's making it difficult for Only Angel. He's forcing. Or he's asking questions, rather, of Enclave, and he's forcing answers. This is going to be the engage from Only Angel. They need to make this happen. Where was that going?
Went in completely the wrong direction. Kira's on that flank. Watch out for the set. Looking for Shogun. Will pull him in. 2-1. They get himself a black shield. Shogun goes golden. They find the bind onto one, but Shogun will fall. Thomas is the one to secure it. Bubble goes down. Isn't going to quite find its mark, and a massive haymaker will come through as Thomas go now looking for the dive onto Rabstar. Rabstar's able to survive, but he has to flash away. That could just be Soul over to the side of Bulldog.
It's the Kera show again, man. Like, just comes in, finds the flank onto Shogun, who can't use the black shield quick enough. And again, just at this point in time, he hasn't even got a single tank item, but no one even tickles him. Like, he eats Zoe bubbles for breakfast. He like the lethality Varus is doing diddly friggin' squat versus this pick right now. Look at that. I mean, Kera, that's like what a quarter of his HP, but he's fine with that. He's perfectly fine with that.
Take about a third with the Death Dance burn wearing off as well. Bubble does land once again, but there is no way they're following that. Fortel continues to do the dragon in the meantime while Kira stands on that front line. Only Angel looks to get chunked out. They use the Call of the Forge God. The chains are going to look to spread. This could just be the end of Jacob. He's burning out to the Death Dance. The shutdown's been picked up. That's going to be Kira throwing Only Angel into the middle of everyone. The Lamb's Respite will get used as they secure the kill onto Only Angel. Girish now being run through by Jacob. This could just be the mop-up. The arrow lands onto Kira. Kira's taking so much damage, but a massive haymaker shield will keep him alive. Rabstar's still going. Fortel's trying to keep this up for the moment. In comes the bubble. In comes the arrow. A massive pillar will slow them down. Thomas still has full health, though. And Enclave, they're just too low. They can't commit. Infernal Soul onto Bulldog.
Yeah, but Infernal Soul is the important thing here, Hitbrain. That is what Enclave needed to continue their power pressure in this game. That would have made the fight so much easier, the burst that much more effective, and now it's on the other side of the field. They're not even healthy enough. They're going straight for Baron because this is like a Hail Mary play. They've got a 30-second death timer on Kera, who's the problem member for them. They're going straight for it to at least set up vision and try this one. They need this Baron. They've got an okay Baron. Like with the Varus, I think they can do it, and I think they have to go for it straight away. They're going to teleport in.
Thomas actually cancelled his base there. So he's running around with half mana, doesn't have flash, does have that cleanse. That's going to be the true shot barrage. Will spot them out. 7k onto the Baron right now. Thomas has that shockwave. Can he find it? I don't think he can in time. Baron gets picked up for the side of Enclave. The ornaments are going to get handed out by Only Angel. Ravstar gets an upgrade on his Gwynzus. Not his Gwynzus, his Yomu's.
Look, Jake, this is the power play for Enclave. If they cannot make use of this, which I think will be difficult versus an Infernal Soul team, if they can't make use of this, it's game over. This Baron is it. This Baron is it. If they can make a power play and take a good fight, they can end the game with this individual Baron buff. And I think they realize it. They're grouping up for that very reason. It is all about the next 4 minutes for this team.
Poke teams love Baron. It allows them to siege. Now, this is a similar thing we had yesterday. I have to hold that. If the Call of the Forge God goes out onto Fortel, massive chunk onto Jacob. He just gets him. The Death Dance burns too much, and Fortel, he has to run away. You just said it's do or die, and it looks like it's die for Bulldog. Enclave crack open the base. Kira has to be a little bit careful now. Jacob's doing a serious amount of damage. The Haymaker shield's pretty big, and Kira just gets chunked out. Hook will land on to the minion to make sure that they can push more. Thomas Go has to now cower underneath his turret. Jacob looks to continue to push the wave in forward. Enclave, they may have just found their pick. They may have just found their moment. There's still 30 seconds until Jacob is alive. Only Angel's going to look for some damage. They get themselves a knockup. The fresh is so low. Is he going to die here? Shockwave onto 4 members by Thomas. Thomas is looking at the kite. They have the redemption to try and heal everybody up on the side of Enclave as they find themselves the kill. Onto Thomas Go. Kira and Fortel are just way too low. It was a back and forth game, and Enclave pull it back from the depth of despair. 43 minutes on the clock. Enclave take out Bulldog.
Oh my word, they needed that power play, Hitbrain, and they got it. Like, that was it. They knew what they needed to do. They had the Baron buff, a wave they could work with. They find the engage. That's one of the benefits of what Only Angel provided to the team. Like, if for a team that needed to make something happen, that's what an Ornn can do. Just throw it down. And they hit it right on their head. That was such an excellent and decisive play from Enclave, because it's what they needed to win the game. The longer that went, you really felt like they weren't going to be capable of taking on Bulldog in the later stages. But I mean, all credit to Bulldog. They fought hard, and I feel like it was kind of wrenched out of their hands. But Enclave, they were decisive. They made the power play, and even without Infernal Soul, they made it work. Really excellent game from Enclave. There was some mistakes. It was sloppy, but we have to credit late game decision making. We have to credit their capabilities in the late game.
It was really smart decision making, and I think for the side of Bulldog though, that didn't look like a 0-3 team. I know they're now 0-3, but that did not look like a team who sit at the bottom versus a team who are currently undefeated and sitting at the top. That was maybe way closer than Enclave wanted that game to be, but it was enough for them to pull that game out. And you know, today's been actually really incredible for me, just because we've seen so many games that have been so close. They've been so back and forth, and all of our teams are challenging each other at every front, and it's just been made for some really good League of Legends today.
That was a really fun game. I mean, it was a very close affair. We haven't seen many of those over the last week in the UKLC or the NLC, to be honest with you. But it lived up to the hype, and you know, a good win for Enclave. They're going to go 3-0. Commiserations to Bulldog. I don't want them to lose heart. They played that game really well. They just got caught out at the end with some really clutch decision making from Enclave.
Well, mid lane Jacob apparently beats bot lane Jacob. With that, we're going to throw to a quick break. And when we're back with our post-game interview. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a second. Hello, welcome back to the UKLC. We just had a pretty stellar win there for Enclave, but it was back and forth, and we've brought on the man in the support role. It's Shogun. How you doing, buddy?
Very good, thank you.
God, your nerves got to be a little on and off after that game, because that was maybe a little bit more back and forth than you expected. Did you think Bulldog were going to put up that much of a fight?
No. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think it was going to be easier than that. So, yeah, that was hectic.
I mean,
Mate,
yeah, I got to ask, what were the comms like in that game?
I mean, really, it was just a lot of when we were making these mistakes, trying to recover and come back from them, sort of re-identifying win conditions and just going from there, I guess.
How hard did you flame Rabstar in lane?
not as much as you might think. No, not at all.
No, we're obviously just messing with you. But,
yeah.
No, I think you guys. I think almost lost your win conditions when you lost Infernal Soul, especially. But I want to talk about who made the call at the end after Baron to just go for it. Who made that call and just said, let's just go for it?
I mean, really, a lot of the whole. I mean, not just that specifically, but leading up to that, Rafa was taking a lot of the weight from this when the mistakes and we were falling out, and he's constantly looking for ways to get back in the game, which is great. Really, the ending call kind of, I think, maybe came from Jacob more specifically, because it's very much on him and Rabstar to find these picks and to and I think it's because he knew that he could get them and he found them and he was like, oh, there's one gone, there's two gone. Okay, that's the game. We got it. Like the moment of relief when you realize that was nice.
How's it feel to have the alpha Jacob as well? You know,
I know, right?
You've got the better Jacob.
Yeah,
I mean, no, the other Jacob was also pretty bloody scary.
He did well, actually. He did really well. Yeah. I did recommend that the loser has to change their name, but nobody seemed interested in that bet. So.
Honestly, I think all credit to you, because I genuinely felt like Bulldog were going to take that, just because I felt like once you guys lost control of certain neutral objectives, like obviously you want them to face check you all the time with the composition that you've got. You want them to walk into the Zoe, you want them to walk into the Varus. I really felt like at one point I was like, Kera is monstering people. Kera is just an absolute nightmare to deal with, and I really feel like you kind of lost control of those neutral objectives, but you somehow clutched it out, and with some really, really good end game decision making. What was it that you think was the biggest reason that you let slip in that game? What can you identify one point in the game where you felt like you let go of the gas and kind of gave Bulldog their way back in?
I think aside from the few laning mistakes, which seem worse than they are, I don't think they really contributed. It was more, I think, when we got to these points where we moved away from doing what we should have been doing, which was looking, like you say, for those picks with Varus, Zoe, these champions, rather than us just showing up in a team fight, walking together and letting Orianna 4-man ult us or something. You know what I mean? So I think it was really when it came to those points, we pulled the trigger too fast, trying to take the fights, and we didn't respect what our composition wanted to do. And we just had to get back to that by the end of the game to try and win it.
I mean, you clutched it out. It was incredible. I mean, really, really, really good win. I love to see when late game decision making pays off, especially for the team that is. I don't think you were as favoured as the game went on. Like as the game went on, and you really feel like Bulldog were probably in the driving seat. But that just shows you the quality of your team and the caliber of your players. Well, you're definitely looking like one of the top two in the UKLC for sure. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm glad you actually linked that into the top two, because I was just going to ask, who do you think is probably the scariest team for you now to play against? Obviously, ignoring the fact that Bulldog will look pretty scary in that game. Who do you think is going to challenge you at the tops now? I
did think, and I still think, London probably. I think across the board they have more experience, and that's the sort of, you look at this game that we just played, and that's the sort of thing that really comes in to winning games at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I think they do just have I like Demise roster looks good, but I would personally say London. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your win. Thank you very much for joining us here for the post-game interview, Shogun. And speaking of Demise and London, coming up after the break, guys, we actually have our fourth and final game, which will be London versus Demise. You don't want to miss this one. We'll see you after the break.